Nicola. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good. Um, we'll get things started then. So, hi everyone. My name's Stephen Burke. I'm the project producer for Grain, and tonight I'm here with Nicola Morley, who's one of this year's participants of our Masterclass program that we run in partnership with Format Festival and Quad in Derby. And also just to quickly say thanks to our supporters and sponsors, that's Arts Council England, Birmingham City University, Derby University, and this year the New Art Gallery Warsaw. So this conversation is part of a programme put together by this year's participants, which if you haven't seen any of the previous ones, thank you for joining us this evening. There's a couple more to come, and in the future, I'm sure you're going to be able to watch all of these back if there's any that you've missed. But this evening, we're joined by Nicola Morley. Thank you, Nicola. And we're going to be discussing some of Nicola's previous work and also some of the work that Nicola's been developing as part of the Masterclass programme, and also some quite new work as well. Just to get us started, I will just quickly read out Nicola's bio and then we'll get into the conversation. But thank you everyone for joining us once again. So, Nicola Morley is an award-winning British portrait photographer based in London and Lancashire. She studied at Westminster University and her work has been exhibited within the UK and internationally. Her practice focuses on people, place and identity. It is the everyday and the mundane that absorbs her interest. Those quirky rituals that we all employ, each one a trace of our reality, that makes us independently and collectively who we are. In 2018, she was shortlisted for the British Journal of Photography's Portrait of Britain, and in 2019, she shared work in both the Portrait of Britain and Portrait Salon. She took part in the 209 Women project, where 209 women photographers photographed all 209 women MPs, celebrating a centenary of votes for women, and she was nominated in the same year, I believe, for the Royal Photography Society's list of 100 heroines. And now we are joined with you as part of the Masterclass programme. Thank you for joining us tonight, Nicola.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
No, it's our absolute pleasure. Just to kind of introduce yourself further to everyone this evening, do you want to let us all find out or let us know how you kind of got interested in photography and where your kind of passion started for it?
Yes, well, I got a camera for Christmas about 2013, and I was spending a lot of time in Switzerland at the time. So nice. Yeah. So I used to go out with my dog every day. I was sort of partly living on my own and partly my ex used to come over at the weekends. So I spent the days on my own, and I would go out, I'd get the dog and we'd go for long walks, and I'd take my camera and I took lots of pretty pictures, and then in the evening I did an online Lightroom course. So I just did that for about 2 or 3 months, and then when I came back to the UK after the winter, I thought, well, I'll do a photography course and learn a bit more. And then I thought, I'll do another one and learn a bit more. And then the next winter when I went back, well, I did some pictures in the summer. When I went back to the mountains, I was asked to do an exhibition in a hotel, a solo exhibition in a hotel. So that was, by then it was 2015. And so I did that, and that was quite a success. Lots of pretty pictures, lots of, nice cows. And I thought, I'm quite good at this. So I thought, well, yeah, I'll do an MA because, why not? So I went from pretty pictures to David Bate, which is a bit of a leap. And I didn't know anything. I mean, I was so green. And it was a baptism of fire. It really, really, really was. And it was really tough couple of years. But I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad I did it. It was absolutely fantastic. It was such a learning curve. Met some incredible people, changed the way I think completely. It was great. I mean, it wasn't great. It was hell, but it was great after it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's where we first met, wasn't it? Because I was doing the other MA course at Westminster, and yeah, we met when we were installing our kind of final show.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to talk about that first work, which, you know, was just looking back at it the other day, and it's still so strong, and yeah, still very evocative. Yeah, do you want
Yeah.
you mind
Well,
talking about that project?
no, not at all. The coercion project.
Yeah.
So the sort of story behind the MA, and partly why it was so hard work, was that I separated from my ex-husband 6 weeks before the MA, and as we were hanging the final show, my divorce came through. So basically, that time was really stressful, and I sort of started to notice that half my hair was falling out, and basically I lost the whole side of my head of hair. So it was that stressful. But it took me to this place, and actually David Bates said, you know, you'll never make work like this again, because you'll never be so involved in this situation. So I did this work about coercion, which the law came out, I think it might have been 2017, might have been 2016, I can't remember the details now, but it's about coercive relationships, and this was before the Me Too movement came out. So since I've done the work, there's been a lot more talk about it, but it was something I was just learning about, sort of realizing what it was all about. And I put this into a project, and it took my soul out of me, and I couldn't look at it again for a good 7 or 8 months afterwards. And it's only now that I'm starting to think maybe I can take it somewhere a bit further, and maybe I can do something else with it.
But yeah, I think it's very powerful, and, you know, for people who haven't seen this project, really recommend to go into Nicola's website to you know, to look at the pictures. But they are kind of, how would you describe them visually? What, you know, what are the photographs of?
Well, there's some words. So I sort of looked at this Sophie Calle type, where she actually gives her words status. They're the same status as the pictures. So the words were very important to be framed and have a status, and because those were the feelings that you have, sort of like blocked, abused, you know, all sorts of sort of very, very negative feelings that you have if you are involved in a relationship like that. But there were also really the things that I felt that I was seeing all the time that I was in that relationship. The pictures are very, very empty, and they're mostly of domestic situations. And I went into one flat that had been moved out of, so it was quite an empty flat. And I went into another person's house who very kindly let me go into her house. And actually, I knew that she was going through something similar at the time. And actually, she's now separated. And you could feel it in the house. You could feel that sort of sense. And something else that I'm realizing, that I'm noticing with my work, is that it's that lost dreams, that lost hope. So in a house, when you get a house and you put up the curtains and you make everything just lovely, and then if you have a relationship breakdown, that's all that effort that you've done to make it into your nest and your home and your place of safety. It's so sad when you see that it's crumbling, and it just, you know, those dreams just haven't been fulfilled. So that's and that's something I've noticed with other pieces of work that I've done.
Yeah, I think it's a really strong piece of work. I mean, yeah, the images feel very charged, and you know, I think there's some really strong pieces where there's this kind of quite heavily patterned wallpaper, and then it's just, you know, peeling away. And yeah, I think it's really strong, and, you know, yeah, if you have a chance to relook at it, or, you know, think of ways to put that work out there, I think it's really great. Um, Maybe should we move on to, because obviously a big part of your work, and which isn't it within this, but portraiture plays a massive role in your work, and I guess what you're interested in photography. Where does your kind of interest in portraiture come from?
I think I think really I've always been interested in portraiture. I've always been interested in taking people. I'm always interested in what makes people tick and what is it that brings out that essence. I mean, it's very sort of cliched, I know, but I am really, really interested in, you know, I call myself a realist photographer. It's not the glossy things. It's sort of life's experiences. And I think you can, well, you can see so much through a portrait.
Mm.
Um, and you know, they can be jolly, they can be sad, they can be strong, you, you know it well, and it's an honor really to take somebody's picture, and if they let you do it, and let you in, that's really great. And you have to learn to respect that. I have been I have had times when I haven't been quite as respectful as perhaps I should be. It's
I think
tempting. Bit of
I think
northerner in me.
I think we've all been there as photographers and artists, and I think that's why it's always good to keep, you know, looking back at your work and re-examining it and thinking through your intentions and things. But I think, you know, you just touched on that, the idea of respect and it being like, you know, wanting to people to look powerful, and it, yeah, brings me on to your project Resolve, which is a
Oh
series
yeah.
of portraits, and that, are they of swimmers?
Yes, they're the fabulous serpentine swimmers. They're just incredible people. So I used to live quite near that part of the Hyde Park, and I used to walk my dog past there every morning. And the serpentine swimmers are there from, I think it's 6:30, might be 7:30. I think it's seven. Can't remember, it's 6:30 or 7:30 in the morning. But they have to be out by 9:30 because the other, like the public area, opens up. So they've got to be gone by 9:30. And and I just felt that they had this, and this strength, and they go every day. They go, and there's no wetsuits, so it's a bit sort of poo-pooed if you wear a wetsuit. So and I suppose actually because I went to school in the Lake District, and we learned to swim in Windermere, and that was
Oh, nice.
and I think it sort of reminded me a little bit of that as well. Um, and the project is about, I did this actually in the middle of my MA, and it's about that time that you get into the water and you've made that first step into the water. You've dived in, or you're immersed in the water, and there's sort of no turning back really. You've got to either, you are now cold, and you've either got to keep moving and keep swimming, or you get out and you are still cold. You've still made that first move. And I suppose in a sense it was relating again to my divorce, that the first move is the hardest, and then you're in it and you've got to keep going. And then the bit about they've just got out of the water and they've completed the swim, they've done what they needed to do, but they are so cold because the water is so absolutely freezing. Even in the summer it's really, really cold, and they have to get warm very, very quickly, otherwise they'll get hypothermia, and you know, they have to move. So I had seconds to get this, so I set up this little studio literally, you know, 2 yards from the edge of the lake, so that they could come, have their picture taken, gave them a croissant as a thank you, and off they went.
Great. Yeah.
So, and they just couldn't hang about. And it's that point of that moment that you've done it, but you've got to still look after yourself. You've still got to get warm. You've still got to get dry. There's still more to do, even though you've actually completed what it was you set out to do.
Great, great. Yeah, I think, and again, if people haven't seen this work by Nicola, yeah, please go on her website. And yeah, they're very rich portraits. They're black and white, and I think, yeah, there's something about the black background when you said that idea of, like, you know, submerging yourself, and it has that feel. The colors that you're kind of, well, the use of the black and white
Yeah.
really gets that across. And yeah, and I think there's something in their gaze which really, again, you saying about people feeling they've done it, they've broken free of, you know, this moment. I think you really capture it really well. And I think just, I was going to mention this later, but I think I'll say it now as we move on to another project. But do you find all of your work, there's like, it's quite autobiographical in a sense, not perhaps immediately, but kind of in reflection, do you see that kind of as a pattern throughout all of the projects you've been working on?
I think, yes, I think that's quite open and obvious, but I think it's also, I think you've got to sort of, there's a balance somewhere. So it's good to use yourself as a sounding board, but to tell your story, to enable other people to grow and to know that they can move on from there, because these stories aren't, you know, it's not just me who's been through this issue, you know, me too. It's not just me. Other people have been through other things that are similar, and you can relate to that. And the more people talk about that, and the more these things are open. I mean, it was only 2017 that Me Too came out, and you know, the more and more that these things are discussed, the more that it's out in the open, and that is really important, because people are suffering, you know, a lot. And yeah.
No, 100%. We've just had a question come in from Jackie, and also to everyone who's listening, if you have questions as we go, please do put them in. Jackie's asking, how did you get to know the Serpentine swimmers to photograph? Did you already have a relationship with them, or?
No, I just started, you know, it didn't start by me talking to them to do the work. It started for me talking to them, just because I just thought they were great. And there's a cafe, if you're in that part of London, I do know that one person, I don't know if they're watching tonight, but she started swimming with them, and there's a cafe right next door. It's probably not open at the moment, but there's a real camaraderie with this group of people, and there's you know, a cross section of society. There's police, there's you know, there's judges, there's plumbers, there's just everybody, and you're all on a level. You're in that water and you are on a level, and I really love that sort of strength of community. And I actually went in once because I was so attracted to them. I thought, you're never going to be in this group unless you get that water. And
how was that? How was being submerged into the Serpentine? What was that like?
It's okay. It's very good. You've got to be careful, because you can get ill, you know, if the water comes in. But the bottom is really squidgy and horrible. Yeah.
Not nice.
Yeah.
So, as part of the project that you kind of have been bringing along as part of the Masterclass program, the Winds of Change project. Do you want to fill us in on what that project's about and what you're trying to do with it, and who the project is about?
Yeah, well, it's about a family in well, not so much the family as their land, actually, in the northwest of England, northeast Lancashire, and they go back to this land. They've lived on this land since 1197, so hundreds of years they've lived on this land, and over the years they've had less and less land. So it's not like there's a house and then there's this big view of all the land, because the land's more scattered about now. And I took a photograph of one of the daughters, which was one that was in the Portrait of Britain. And after I took that photograph, which was a sort of just a fun thing, she said that, you know, her father was very old and her brother will inherit, and why don't I take some pictures of all the farmers and the cottage people, the people who live in the cottages. They've got 20 cottages, and I can't remember how many farms they've got. It's between 9 and 12, say that. So I started to go around and take pictures of the farming community and the people who lived in the cottages. And actually, I'm so glad I did, because I think 3 people have already died that I've got portraits of. So it is a record of what's been going on, and what the future will bring for the family and for the estate is really, nobody really knows what's going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future with that.
Definitely. And it feels, you know, forgive my ignorance, but it feels like it's almost from another world, this kind of, this way of managing the land. It feels quite ancient, or kind of, yeah.
Frugal. No, not frugal. Frugal.
Frugal, yes.
They are very frugal. But,
Yeah.
yeah, it does. And on the face of it, it really does. And I can totally see where people get that idea. And I'm not saying this is right, this is wrong, they shouldn't have that, they should. That's not what this is about. It's like, this is what it is, and I don't know where it's going to go. And as it is, I've spoken to a lot of the farmers, and the way they see it, for a number of families I've spoken to, is that they wouldn't have the opportunity to live on these farms if they didn't, if those farms weren't there to enable them to rent them. And more people in the UK are renting. So, you know, it's a bigger story. Now, whether or not, you know, people should have that amount of land and stuff, well, that's another debate. But this is where, this is what it is and where it is, and it's how it's managed. And, you know, one family said to me, well, you know, if we had a family farm and then you've got 2-3 kids, the farm gets split up. One child might want to buy the farm, and they spend their whole life trying to pay off a massive mortgage. This way, if they decide that the farming life doesn't work for them, they can move, you know, they can go. So, and they've had tenants on the land that from the same families that are there now from the mid 1800s.
Wow.
So it's not that, you know, it is a choice for I'm not saying, I haven't seen anybody that it's not a choice for, let's say. And there's grandchildren there, you know, farming with their grandparents, because the son's got another farm on the estate. So they seem very content with the way that their life is. And so, you know, that's how it appears to me.
I think it's a really interesting project, and yeah, it touches on, yeah, whether directly or indirectly, you know, so much kind of stuff that is going on at the moment in terms, you know, ownership of land and, yeah, ownership of wealth. And but yeah, that it's not a direct kind of talking about that, but it's all part of it, isn't it? And yeah,
I think that I can't remember the exact figures, but I think it's like 10% of the country own 90% of the land or something. You know, it is something like that. I mean, you know, there is this, yeah.
And it feels, I mean, does it feels quite, within the series of images, I mean, quite, you really capture the sense of place of the area. Does it feel like a community? Does it feel, you know, that romantic idea of what the, you know, the British countryside and farming is all about? Does it feel romantic when you're there?
As a community, yes, definitely. As a community, there's a real sense of pulling together, because there's aunts and uncles and brothers and families and sort of in that sense. So there's one family where the son was doing his apprenticeship on his aunt's farm, you know, that sort of thing. And so in the community side and the people pulling together, absolutely. And in the sense that Cosima, who's the one I took the picture of at the beginning, you know, at the beginning of lockdown, she was down the pub, she was driving all the food to everybody around in the area, and you know, there's a real pulling together in that sense. And when the floods were there, everybody was out, and you know, so yes, absolutely community. Romantic countryside, no.
The reality of work is hard. The reality is hard.
Yeah, yeah. So it's sort of Heathcliff area, you know, it's boggy, it's wet, it's moorland, it's not agricultural land at all, although I'm sure people would dispute that, saying, oh, the vegetables are very good, but it's not wheat and oats and barley and that sort of thing at all. It's not rolling, you know, Gloucestershire countryside or like that at all. No.
And sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say my car got stuck, you know.
Okay. No. Again, you know, your portraiture in this project is really strong, especially I think the work with the younger people. There's a great picture of the guy lying back on the big haystack with, holding the dog.
Fred and Henry. Fred and Henry and the dog, yeah.
And also the amazing picture of the person on the horse as well, which on your website they sit next to each other. How much, when you're kind of taking portraits, do you direct people? How much is it? Do you see it as a collaboration with the participant? What's your kind of process when you're working with you know, the people you're making the pictures of?
Well, you tend to get the best picture after you've taken the pictures. So, especially with people who are not used to having their picture taken. You can try and say, you know, oh, I like the way you did that, and stay like that. And then you do the picture and you say, oh, that's great. And they all go, oh. And then it's like, that's it. That is the picture. And so that's exactly what happened with Fred and Henry. They you know, they did all their thing, and it's like, you know, they were all puffed out, and then it's like, that's it. There we are. So I like that one. So it's you've got to get people to relax and try and enjoy it. And it, you know, Roland Barthes says he's got that photograph face, and so everybody has that, especially if they're not used to it.
Yeah.
And, it's fine. It's getting past that photograph face, and just people get, and that's what's quite nice about keep going back, and people get to know you, and then it's not so intrusive, and that really helps.
For sure.
Go on. No, sorry.
And you live relatively near to the area, is that correct?
Yeah, in Lancashire terms, I live quite near. It's about it's about 3/4 of an hour.
Okay.
Which is quite near in Lancashire terms, but yeah, there's always food.
Yeah. Where do you see the project? Are you still working on the project, or I know you've exhibited it, but are you continuing on with it? What's your kind of hopes and aims?
Yes, I am in theory. We've had to be very careful during lockdown because a lot of the people involved are older, and they just don't want to take the risk, and that's quite understandable. And also I've been isolated, I've been shielding with my mother, so I haven't been out either. So the last 4 or 5 months, and I was hoping to really cement this project while I was on the East meets West, but that's how it is. But yes, I do want to carry on, and in fact the winter's almost better to do it because the light's much flatter, and it's sort of nicer light as well. So I should look forward to doing more in the winter, and just getting back to. And the other exciting thing is that there's a hall that was owned by the family in a town called Burnley, and the family left the hall about over 100 years ago, and they gave the hall to Burnley, and they took it was emptied, so there's nothing in it that belonged to the family, but it's been filled, and it's got lots of antiques, and it's really interesting to go and see. But we're looking at having an exhibition there in 2022, so not this coming next year, but the year afterwards,
Brilliant.
and bring some of the artifacts from the past and just try and bring everything together. And so I've been talking to the hall about that, and I've got to go through the archives, but again, everything's a bit on hold, which was why we thought 2022, they've got a program that they've got for next year, so hopefully March or something we can start really looking at that and pulling some things together and making a really good exhibition, which would be nice. It would be nice for the city.
Definitely. And I think, I think there's a real interesting thing that the family used to own the hall, and the kind of, that all really adds to the story. And, says so much still, just, that they own the hall like that. Yeah, I think that's really great.
Well, they don't own it. Yeah, no, they gave it to the city. They don't own it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they used to own it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just touched on that you've been shielding with your mother, and in that process, you've begun to create a new project, have you?
Yes. So the project's called Grandma, because I'm actually the only person who calls her mummy. Even my brother calls her Grandma. So she's got four grandchildren. I don't know why that's so difficult to remember. So my brother's got 3 kids and I've got 1. And because of lockdown, we've all been around. So my mum lives in a farm. I've been living with her for the moment. So my mum lives in a farmhouse and my brother lives in a barn next door. So he's had all his grown-up kids around with a few boyfriends as well. And I've had my grown-up daughter who's been there for a while and is now back with me. So it's been quite nice in the sense that we've all been around together. And my mother, I took a picture of her Christmas, what are we now, Christmas 2018, and that was for the Portrait of Britain, that got shortlisted. And it was in some other things as well, Photo North and Portrait Salon. So I took that picture, and my mother got this breathing disorder, and she's really stoical. She's really, really strong woman. And it was incredible how quickly she started to go down. And when I came to be here in October last year, she was using her oxygen a few hours a day. And about 2-3 months ago, she started on 24 hours a day. So very quickly, she went down. And she's a very, very strong woman. She's very clear about what she likes. She'll say if she doesn't like something. But because the picture that I took of her at Christmas in the red dress did quite well, she started to allow me to take her pictures, and I started to take pictures of her, which in the past she probably wouldn't have let me do so much. And as she got more ill, you can see it in the pictures that she's getting more and more ill, and she's allowed me to take these really very intimate pictures, which I don't think she would have done a few years ago. So I feel that she's allowed me to do something through lockdown, which I would never have been able to do. And I was not going to take a picture of my mother during lockdown. That was the one thing I was not going to do. So that's what I've ended up doing. And I have got some really intimate pictures, and I feel that she's allowed me to really work with her, and it's about breathing really, because I feel like I've been able to breathe in this taking these pictures. At the same time, she's not being able to breathe, and then you've got lockdown on top of all that. So yeah, it's been quite an interesting experience.
Yeah, I think there's some really powerful images, and you're very intimate, and I can see your mother's character and her kind of, as you said, there is a stoicness to her. But I think I wonder if, do you think it's because of the changing in your relationship and spending more time with her that this has developed, and then photography has almost been a kind of a tool for you to kind of get closer, or is that
Without a
being
doubt,
too?
without a doubt,
Yeah.
yeah, without a doubt. She's letting me do this is the probably one of the best things she's ever done for me. It's like a real, like a level, like she's started to see me as somebody who can do something. So yeah, no, it's been absolutely, without a doubt, it's one of the best things ever. Yeah, these are her earrings.
Nice. That's great, and that's the real photography and art has that power, and especially in the making of something collaboratively, it does have that real power to bring people together, and through the process of it. Where do obviously it's very early stages with this project, and I really like how you talk about this idea of breathing, and yeah, that being a kind of overarching theme of it. Where do you see yourself developing this? How do you see your kind of how the project will
Well, I
change?
think I've had a various feedback. I think it could work as a book, but I don't have an awful lot of it, and I'm not sure I'm going to get much more of it, to be honest.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean I can't use archival material, of which there is not loads, but there is some, and I think that would be interesting. We've just sort of found some old cine films that we're looking at the moment as a family, so there's all that sort of thing. I've also got some recording of her with her breathing machine, which would be interesting for some sort of installation. I think that would be really good, because at the beginning, because she's so active, and she's so always doing something, that before she was on it 24 hours a day, when I used to hear that she was on the breathing machine, I knew that she was probably, most likely, although she didn't have to be, she was probably sitting down, which meant that she wasn't knocking something over. So it's just like, I would just hear the breathing, I go, so there's this sound that I recorded of this breathing machine, which is quite methodical, and what's the word, when it's like, and it's quite nice, and the birds are singing, and it's got this lovely sound. I really like it, actually. It's quite relaxing in an odd sort of way.
Yeah, I can imagine. I wonder if there's something in like conversations between you both as well could be an interesting kind of potentially thing to bring into.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where we are at the moment with all that. She's actually in hospital at the moment, so I don't know. I don't know where we are. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it would be good. It would be good to have some conversations, but I wouldn't want to ask her to do something.
Yeah, I understand.
But there's lots of other members of the families that we could have conversations with. Yeah. Because you see things in a different way.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure. How have you found the whole East Meets West program experience? Has it been good? Has it been bad? Hopefully it's been good.
It was dreadful. No, it was amazing. It was lovely. It was so nurturing, and everybody is as, yeah. I mean, the whole team. You and Nicola and Laura and Neve, and you've just been so nurturing and so kind, and it has been a place where we could put our work out and say, what do you think of that? And sometimes, I've had some quite strong feedback, and I've had to take that on board, and it's made me reassess things, and that's no bad thing. That's all part of the growing process. But also, where things have been good, if you like, sort of to help you to grow and to help you have that confidence. And yeah, fantastic. And an amazing group of people that have been on it as well. Really, really, really talented people. Yeah, I mean, I'd do it all again.
Yeah, it is a great group of people this year.
Yeah.
And you've all worked so well together as well, planning, this program of talks, but also the publication that I know you've been involved in, and the website. Yeah, it's been where can people get hold of the publication still, or is that
Well, the publication, we do have a little, I'll let you, Stephen, because nobody's listening. We have a little secret supply of the publication, and we're working out who and how we're going to let a very few people have the odd copy. So yes, watch this space, because we're in discussions amongst ourselves about how a very few amount of people can have a very few amount of copies, but we do have, and you've got to be nice to me because I've got them.
And where can people see everyone's work? So what's the website address?
The website is eastmeetswestphoto.co.uk, and if that's wrong, somebody put it in the talk. I think eastmeetswestphoto.co.uk. And yeah, and the website team have been amazing, and it looks really good, and all the talks are recorded, and anybody can sign up to our newsletter, which comes out and tells you what's going on. So it'll give you a list of the talks for next week, and also we've got a photo cafe coming up, which you can book into that. Yeah. And I'm sure that when we've decided how we're going to let people have our special very exclusive publications, we'll find a way. Might be a quiz.
Great. And just for the PhotoCaf event, so people, that'll be via Zoom, and you can book a free place for that via the Grain website, which is grainphotographyhub.co.uk, or via the Grain Instagram account. So just type in Grain Projects and you'll be able to book onto that. But Nicola, I think that's been a really great conversation. Is there anything that you'd like to add at all that I've missed, or yeah, is there anything you would like to add?
It's been really great. I'm sorry if you can hear this scratching. This is my dog in the background. I put her out. It decides that this is the time of the day to play, so I put her in there. That's why they're scratching.
Maybe let the dog out. Maybe that would be a great.
Want to see the dog? Yeah. I hope I don't. Yeah, that's all part of the thing, isn't it? Dogs and cats.
Exactly.
Hang on. Come on. Here, Bluebell. Come here. Come and say hello. Come and say hello. Come on. There we
are. What's the dog's name?
She's called Bluebell. Yeah.
A good ball.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she'll come back now. She'll be like, oh, I want to play with my dog. Oh, my friend Karen. She knows Bluebell. Karen. Hi. So, yeah. So, yeah, there's just lots more to do. And I'm so grateful to have been included in East Meets West. And I would definitely recommend that people try, although I don't know what's happening next year because we're planning.
We're in planning, so we'll let people know what the plans are. But we're having planning conversations.
So we're all in planning. So we're planning for the publication, and you're planning for the East Meets West. So, but I think format next year is going to be one big party. I hope so.
100%. Yeah, and also format. So as I said, format are the partners on. Part of the Masterclass program, and their open call for the festival is currently open. And again, just type in Format Festival in Google and you can find out more information about that. But the theme for the festival is control, and I'm sure they're going to get lots of exciting submissions as part of that. Just to let everyone know what's coming up in terms of this series of conversations. So on Sunday, it's going to be Tamsin Green, who's a brilliant photographer and artist. She'll be in conversation with Neve, I believe, from Format. And then next week, it's Sammy Masters Hopkins, which is on Tuesday. And I'll be speaking with Sammy. And Sammy's a great artist, really interesting approach in how she processes and uses photography yeah, different kind of alternative processes. And then the final one will be with the wonderful Mitchell Moreno, who's a brilliant, brilliant photographer and artist. And I'm sure that's going to be a really fascinating conversation. And that will be on Thursday next week, I believe. Everything's at 8 o'clock. All the information is via the East Meets West exhibition Instagram. And yeah, I think, thank you, Nicola, so much for talking this evening.
Thank you.
And sharing so much about your work. And, you know, it's really, really strong. And yeah, you know, I look forward to seeing how the newer projects develop. And yeah, if people want to see more of Nicola's work, just nicolamorley.com, is it?
That's
yeah,
right.
That is right. I've just double checked. But perfect. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you for
everything. So much, Stephen.
My pleasure.
People. Bye, lovely people.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Have a nice evening.
Bye. Bye.